The year is 2024 and Nintendo just casually released one of the best games ever on the Nintendo Switch, and then just kind of moved on and started doing other things like announcing a clock. But let's rewind the clock and talk about this gem of a game known as Emio the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club. A lot of you probably won't give this game a chance due to the nature of its genre, but I think it's a game that's well worth your time. So let's talk about it. Emio the Smiling Man is a text-based adventure game from the mind of Yoshio Sakamoto, who you may know as the co-creator of the Metroid series. Famicom Detective Club games start off with a murder, and then it's up to you as a detective of the Utsugi Detective Agency to travel to multiple areas in Japan to scan the environments and look for anything that catches your attention. You'll also be talking with relevant people to the case at hand, as well as listening to some of the rumors from people in the area, until you find some more clues that will lead you to further solving the case, all while listening to some great visual novel music that you just can't help but vibe to. At the end of the day, you compare notes with the other detectives and answer some questions based on what happened during the day to try to get a game plan on how to move forward the following day. Emio streamlines the gameplay to where it doesn't require too much scanning around, and also highlights the next option that should be selected. And as somebody that is typically against streamlining, I think for this type of game, it makes sense and it's a great approach, as I found myself in the past two games traveling around every location, scanning every little thing and talking to people multiple times over until I eventually did the right action to progress the story. And because that's not here, I think Emio is the most pleasant game to play in the series. And that's all Famicom Detective Club is as a video game. I know it's not really anything too in-depth as far as like game mechanics or anything, but that's not why we come to a game like this. We're here for a great story. So how is it? Simply put, it's one of the best stories I've experienced in recent years. Once the game was over, I had to take a step back to just gather my thoughts on everything I just witnessed, and it left me feeling a multitude of things I won't get into as to not spoil the game. Yeah, sorry. All you need to know is that it's a murder mystery game based on an in-game urban legend of a man with a paper bag on his head that goes around killing female teenagers in the middle of the night for crying over whatever personal matter that they may be dealing with, and then covering their heads with a paper bag with a drawing of a smiling face on it so that they are forever smiling and no longer crying. And so it's up to you to try to figure out exactly what is going on with these murder cases, as well as who is the murderer behind it. It does a great job at keeping you on your toes and making you think about who the killer was. Nobody was safe while I was playing, and the way the game is written and how certain characters' personalities are and how they respond to situations will have you thinking that they are the killer. I like that, and I like that despite my overthinking throughout the whole playthrough, that I was totally wrong of who Emio was. The thing about Emio the Smiling Man that makes it stand out is that it's a game that feels real. Everything from what the victims were dealing with upon death, the way the media sheds light on the situation, how friends and families of the victims are responding to the situation, even the world and the citizens that you talk to are all real. And I love it for that. It's also nice that despite its dark premise, that Emio tonally isn't one note. There will be moments in the game and characters that you encounter that are very lighthearted and even funny at times. You're probably wondering where the M rating even comes into play, because for most of the game, it's pretty standard, all things considered. It's that last 20% as well as the prologue that really drives this game home, as well as answering all types of questions that you had throughout your playthrough and giving these characters more depth that really take this game to new heights. And the prologue, despite what it consists of, goes back to what I was saying about how the game feels so real, and they do a great job at driving that home. It's what solidified Emio the Smiling Man as one of the greats, and what made me want to do this video in the first place. It's hard to talk about such a game with such little actual game mechanics, while also trying not to spoil the game for non-players. But trust me, it's one of those games that will leave somewhat of a void and have your mind racing by the end of it. Anyways, I'm just really glad that this game exists. I like when Nintendo gives the green light on games that probably don't stand a chance at doing all that well in the sales department. You know, they're more deep cut titles that even a lot of diehard Nintendo fans would be skeptical in giving a try for reasons X, Y, and Z. These titles usually end up being very good experiences that only a handful of us will ever play, but we'll constantly scream from the rooftops about how great this game was and how all of you should give it a try. And Emio is definitely one of those games. I highly recommend giving Emio the Smiling Man a try. As for me personally, there's not a lot of games that come around these days that tend to leave such an impact on me by the end of it like Emio did, especially in a genre that I typically don't gravitate towards anyways. The remakes in 2021 were okay. I thought the idea of Nintendo going back to remake such obscure games that were Japan exclusives was cooler than the games themselves, simply because it just gives me hope for more obscure games in their back catalog to make a return one day. But Emio was truly something special. Definitely give it a chance if you're a fan of story-driven games. You won't be disappointed.